up for Michelle. Let's give it up for Michelle. Come to the stage. How good is this? How good is it? Good side, isn't it?
Amazing.
It's yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Woo! So if you read the title of my speech on the little brochure, you're probably thinking I'm going to talk about my biggest fears. But I'm actually going to tell you a story about traveling. Because who here has traveled before? Probably all your hands should be up if you're here, right? So I've traveled to 65 countries, lived in 6, and flown over 500,000 kilometers. It's a lot of flights, right? So naturally, I often get asked, are you running from something? You've probably heard that before, right? And honestly, I get the question, but I've never had to meet myself more than in a place where I didn't know the language, didn't know a single soul, and there was nowhere really to hide behind than who I thought I was. But let's rewind for a second. I'm originally from Germany, as you might be able to tell by my accent. I grew up in Ibiza, which sounds super glamorous, right? And then I did the good girl life path. That is, university, London, straight into a corporate job. Who here has done the corporate treadmill, by the way? A few hands are up. So you'd know the pain of discussing whether a box on a slide deck should be blue or slightly different blue. Like all these important matters, right? So on paper, I had it all. I was working with the CEO of the London Stock Exchange on projects for over 35,000 people across the globe. But inside, I was numb, disconnected, and kept my heart closed off from any sort of relationships, just in my masculine hustle every day. Until one day, I realized that 10 years in London, and in the midst of my Saturn return, for any astrologers in the room who know what I'm talking about, that was it. So I sold everything, flower pots and all, and booked a one-way ticket to Asia. Because where else does this girl go solo traveling in her quarter-life crisis, right? So it began. Countless trips, hiking up volcanoes at midnight, sitting on the back of a Vietnamese motorbike, singing karaoke for days. Countless sunsets, coconuts, as Dan mentioned, new friends, adventures. It really looked like freedom. But what I was really doing is swapping corporate titles for passport stamps and just repeating my patterns of achievement in different places. And that's when I realized you can travel the world, but it doesn't really matter if you don't feel worthy inside. And then I noticed so many high achievers actually stay in lives that are misaligned because they feel like familiarity equals safety. There's a crazy stat out there that says something like 85% of people actually don't like their job, but they still stay in it. Isn't that crazy? Right? And even more so because, as the quote says, the longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive it gets to go home. And that's kind of what I realized after a while. But growth isn't always easy, because there's so many versions of us that we have to let go to grow. And letting go of that achiever identity was brutal, let me tell you. Because without it, I didn't know who I was. I knew there was this emptiness and grief inside, and I knew I was kind of carrying that Santa sack, as we're coming up to Christmas, with all these unprocessed emotions in there. So until I faced my fear of actually looking what was inside that Santa sack, that's when everything changed. And it wasn't easy. Like, I was crying on planes, random vans, bathroom floors. But I was also feeling peace in cities where nobody knew my name. I meditated with monks in Thailand. I spent entire months journaling in Ubud, as you do, right? Where else? And slowly, that piece of me that needed to earn validation softened. Because real freedom isn't geographical. It is self-connection, it is emotional regulation, and it's knowing how to come back to yourself anywhere. So yeah, I've traveled to 65 countries, but the longest journey I ever took was the one back to myself. And that's when I realized that our real passport is our nervous system. Because when we learn to feel safe inside, that is when the whole world opens. So if you've traveled to Bali and you might be feeling a little lost tonight, I'm actually going to tell you that's a good thing. Because what happens when you lose something? You get the opportunity to find it. So maybe you're not all that lost. Maybe you've just been given the opportunity to find your true self. Thank you.
Well done. This is so good. I love it.